Reckless and dangerous policies from the Biden administration, lawsuits flying back and forth, and a narrow Supreme Court decision earlier this week have brought America as close to a constitutional crisis as I have seen in my lifetime. With unprecedented numbers of illegals flooding into the country after Joe Biden dismantled our border security with more than 90 executive orders, the nation and the American people have reached a breaking point. So along the way, Arizona and Texas tried to stem the flow, which is officially more than 8 million illegals over the border just since Joe Biden took office. The actual number could easily be double that. When Arizona put up steel shipping containers to slow the flow of illegals, the Biden administration sued and forced them to be removed. The election of a left-wing governor there in 2022 meant Arizona would keep the floodgates open going forward. But in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott was not going to take the ongoing flood of illegals lying down. He intended to fight alongside his firebrand Attorney General Ken Paxton. They kept working to shut the border down and protect the Lone Star State from further devastation. Governor Abbott began shipping illegals by the busload and the plane load to dark blue cities like New York and Chicago that quickly began howling and screaming that the Texas governor was playing political games, when in fact, he was just sharing the wealth of millions of people in the country illegally with no job, no house, no food, and no prospects, with the very people who claimed they wanted them here when they declared their cities to be sanctuary cities. As 2021 moved into 2022 and the numbers of those crossing illegal continued to climb, people began to take notice. But the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, was more than happy to sit in front of Congress and lie time and time again about the border being secure. That's what he kept saying when it wasn't true. So Texas began to build some wall sections in some areas, but that was shut down too. And more recently, they placed giant rubber balls and razor wire barriers in the middle of the Rio Grande River in an attempt to slow the invasion and stop what had obviously become far worse and had grown far beyond a problem for Texas into a national security crisis. And once again, the Biden administration stepped up and defended its open border policies in court and had those barriers removed. And during the entire year of 2023, new records for encounters with illegals were set daily, monthly, and eventually an annual record of illegals coming into America was set, unchecked, unvetted, and unleashed on our nation, unleashed on all of us. Here's the scorecard. Almost 2 million in 2021, 2.8 million in 22, and 3.2 million last year for a total of 8 million illegals. And those, again, are just the official numbers from the Biden administration. The real number likely twice that. Twice that. Since Donald Trump left office, the border has become a complete disaster. So in September, Governor Abbott declared an invasion under Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. That clearly states that the federal government, quote, shall protect each state from invasion. Despite this obvious clarity, the feds didn't care and kept stopping the efforts from the governor at every turn. And then a couple of weeks ago, the Texas National Guard seized a park in Eagle Pass, Texas, kicked out all the federal agents. The Biden administration was outraged and took the matter straight to the Supreme Court. In an unbelievable ruling, the high court sided with Joe Biden and his reckless, destructive, open border policies 5-4. But if you thought that would be the end of it, well, you were wrong. Not only has Texas refused to leave the park, they've sent National Guard reinforcements and put up more barriers along the disputed 2.5-mile stretch of the Rio Grande with the Mexican border. Listen, this is just 2.5 miles. The border itself is more than 1,200 miles long, the Texas border with Mexico, which brings us to this constitutional crisis. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the administration, and Texas, its governor and its attorney general, well, they don't seem to care. Instead of backing off and allowing the invasion to continue full speed in Eagle Pass, they're standing their ground. And yesterday, Governor Abbott released a new statement accusing the United States of violating the Constitution and breaking the compact between the federal government and the states. Folks, this is serious. I cannot tell you in strong enough terms, this is serious, and you need to really pay attention to what's going on down there. Abbott wrote in part, the executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting the states, including immigration laws on the books right now. Governor Abbott further outlined that President Biden has violated his oath to execute immigration laws. He's instructing his agencies to violate federal law, wasting taxpayer dollars to destroy the right of the state to remain protected from an illegal invasion, and much more. And not only does Governor Abbott cite the U.S. Constitution and its guarantees against invasion, but he also cites the Texas Constitution and the authority given to protect itself, which of course they should have. So far, he's not moving. But how long can the governor stand? And what will Joe Biden and his administration do? Those are the outstanding questions. What happens next? We're all watching. Will Joe Biden and his ailing Secretary of Defense try to federalize the Texas National Guard and take over? Will federal troops march on Texas? It has happened before. Dwight Eisenhower took control of the National Guard to integrate schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. That was 1957. But let's be clear. Joe Biden ain't Ike. Ike led the Allied victory over Germany in World War II. Joe Biden hasn't led much of anything.